Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight. This is going to be my first dev stream in a while, in a few weeks, actually. I stopped working on the game, and then we put out a alpha build on the 12th of December. And since then, I've been moving house, so I haven't been able to work on anything. And then Gleb, who is kind of co-developing this with me, did a bunch of hotfixes, which was incredibly helpful because there were a bunch of people that were just flat out unable to play the game. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight, and then going to actually do some sort of production work, some design review work. Not really getting back into Engine directly doing stuff. I may do the odd thing in Engine if we find something really quick and easy to fix. But yeah, we're going to be adding some stuff to Trello based on the feedback that the game has received. So those of you who are here because you're interested in the game, that might be interesting from a content point of view. Those of you who are here because you're generally interested in game development might find this interesting from a process type point of view. So if you've never used Trello before, the general idea of it is tasks on this board are moving from the left to the right. And when things are done, they end up on the right. And this string of tasks that are currently in progress should always have the smallest amount of stuff on, because you can only work on one thing at a time. And this is kind of the stuff that we've greenlit to do. And then there's various points before that. We have a backlog. This is stuff that we are pretty sure we're going to do. We have an ideas list, which is stuff that we might do. And tonight what I'm going to be doing is filling up this one called temporary list, and then putting those in the right lists afterwards, because we're going to have a bunch of small bugs or playtester feedback that I need to turn into some sort of actionable cards. And in order to do that quickly and efficiently, I'm just going to put them all in temporary list. And that means that I'm not going through the ideas list in the backlog each time to see if we've got any duplicates or anything. I can just put them all in temp list and then move them around later and worry about if there are duplicates and stuff later on, rather than slowing us down too much. Yeah, I changed the lighting scheme. Thank you for noticing, Andrew. So I've got different stream set up for when we're doing dev. We've got the itch link here. There's nothing that says submit your game on this stream. Right, most of my streams are reviewing other people's games and they say submit your game. Took that off for when we're doing dev because I didn't want to confuse people. Like, I'm sitting here making pixel art poops. I'm sitting here endlessly drawing these. And then there's a sign at the bottom of the screen that says submit your game. It's a bit confusing. So we've got a separate stream set up for that, which is cool. Yeah, I will do a very, very quick play of the game. as I always start off with quickly playing the game, just so that people understand what the game is if they've just wandered in, it's their first time. But we are making a procedural platformer. It's kind of a little bit like something like Spelunky. It is very much based on sort of picking items up and carrying them around as opposed to combat. And you build the game as you go along. There is a sort of gameplay hook there in terms of, like, there is a strange mechanical gimmick that we've taken from Blueprints and the kind of tile drafting board games which inspired Blueprints, but we're putting in a platformer. So you're drafting rooms, you build them, you have different kind of categories of rooms that have different colors. So these gray rooms are dungeons, they have treasure in and they have traps in. And you gradually build this level, and it's kind of like you're playing a Metroidvania, but you're building it rather than exploring it. And then the tricky bit comes in when you need to get back to this portal. And I can't remember who found this bug. Maybe it was Tim actually in the chat, but one of the funny bugs that came up in testing was that people were like holding the teleport button as soon as they came into the level. And when you teleport out of the level, it blows the level up like this. But they were like starting the level and then immediately doing that. So I've just pushed I haven't put it on the itch build yet, but I pushed a fix to GitHub that means that you can't end the level until you've built at least one room. But yeah, we've got loads of work to do, and this is kind of a nice project stage where we just sort of review what we've done and how people are responding to what we've done so far. It's not the first round of playtester feedback. There was stuff earlier on, but that was like 2 or 3 people just giving me feedback on the initial kind of UX and controls, rather than, you know, what we've just got from the itch alpha is people playtesting the game for, you know, hours now. And the most validating thing about that is that at least some of the people who played it want to play it for that amount of time, and it's like a game for them in some way. And you're never making a game for everyone, because you'll make something for no one that way. So if there are a few people that are really enjoying it as it is, then that's a good sign. There's loads and loads of work to do. There's loads of additional content to make. We've got to remake all these menus. This is all placeholder. This menu's placeholder. This menu's placeholder. We've got a plan for a lot of that. And yeah, I think sometimes you can judge the health of a project not by like how much work there is left to do, but how much of it you know, how much of it is kind of known or unknown, you know? And I feel like there are a few unknowns about this game. Like the how is the game going to end? How do you beat the game? That's an unknown for me. But so much of it is like, I don't know, it's kind of color by numbers. I know, you know, if we need more rooms, I know what those rooms will do and stuff like that. So it's a nice place to be in. There's not loads of anxiety. There's lots of like work to do. It's like looking at a big mountain and knowing you've got to climb it, but you can see the top of the mountain. You know how much work is involved and what the shape of the final thing is very, very loosely. So that's all pretty positive. And there's our poo again. Yeah, it does already have some replayability, so that's good. Hi, Boss Grand. I'm just going to see if... So I tried putting this chat highlight feature on the stream, but it still doesn't work. One second, let me see if I can get that to work. And then we will start to we'll get Trello open and we'll start to think about what the feedback that people have given, and I'll go through some of the feedback as well. And the other thing we need is on in the background we need Christmas carols, but dungeon synth. That's like the perfect thing for this particular stream, being as it's our last stream of the festive season. The if you want to find the game for testing, the black bar at the bottom of the screen here that has the itch on it is the link. I think the thing to know is if you don't like platformers and you don't like weird puzzles where you have to work out how things work, then you probably won't like it. And that's like a really hard stumbling block to get over generally when you're making games, is wanting everyone to like the thing. Yeah, this is Macaulay Culkin synth. Is the poop a hazard or a crafting item? It's both. So the way that I did a poll in the Discord, and I said, how much poop can we have in the game? And the overwhelming answer was, you can put poop in the game, but it needs to have functionality, which is like the most roguelike gamer thing to say. All objects must have, all nouns must be verbal. So the main thing the poo does at the moment is if you throw it at plants that are grown in an early growth stage, they just immediately grow to a later growth stage. It also emits these like poison clouds that are very mild, but if there's multiple of them in one place and you stand still, you take some tick damage. So they are both a resource and a hazard, which I think is a good thing to do because it creates like tension and having to think about how the thing works. Yeah, let me just see. Right, I'm gonna go into the DirtWorld, just checking that we've got streamer mode on. Yeah, so we set up a Discord. We got playtesters into the Discord, and this was partly through like using YouTube videos to go, hey, come and check out this game if it looks like something for you. And then I set up two different areas of the Discord. I set up a bug reports area and a playtest reports area. So bug reports is what it sounds like, and playtest reports is much more focused on the gameplay, asking people what was their favorite thing, what did they find frustrating, and using the fast forward method, which someone in the chat maybe will explain if they remember it, but I'm not going to go through it again because I go through it nearly every single stream. So let me just get up the bug reports and we'll go through those first. I'm going to have this over on one side because the streamer mode on Discord doesn't truncate people's names properly when we're in forum mode. So I'm going to just start adding less messages here. So we've got, and thanks Boss Grand for adding an image to yours. This is actually what someone in the chat submitted this one. So this is kind of a known bug in a way because we always intended to replace the dialogue. I've got a very kind of like homegrown dialogue system that was just thrown in very haphazardly in this game, and I think we can do much better when we get to adding more dialogue into the game. There's only a tiny bit of it to kind of give the overall flavor at the moment. Yeah, any excuse to add another particle effect. Levitating vault gems with magnetism. Okay, I know what this one is. Thanks for this one, All9. Vault can be cheesed with the magnet. Right. So we had a bunch of graphical issues, and some of them were basically we were eating up performance with some of the processes we were doing. If you notice in the game, it's like 24 by 24 pixel art, but the camera zooms out so far sometimes that those pixels become subpixels. So we've got like a game maker shader or a library like upscaling the pixel art to make it look kind of okay when it's zoomed out. And that was eating performance, but the main thing we found that people were having an issue with was that a lot of machines, the game engine wasn't using their GPU, and Gleb found a way to sort of force the machine to use the correct GPU when it had multiple, if it was a hybrid device or something like that. So that's fixed now, which is great. We've also got some menu options that allow you to turn the quality down, which is stuff that we really didn't intend to be doing at this stage of the project, but people needed it to be able to playtest. Yeah, so we've got some moonwalking, which is part of... Basically, we're probably going to rewrite the character controller at some point. That's Jolly Cole. I don't know if they're in the chat, but thank you for that one. Can't light bombs. Bombs don't light from pink torches. I know what that is. But yeah, we have a kind of fire system of things that can be on fire and set fire to other things, and it's not reliable in certain places. I know what a lot of these are. I should write them more verbosely so I don't get messed up if I kind of forget them, but prevent blocks existing directly. Okay, the next one I've already got. Cauldron randomly disappearing from kitchen. I don't know what's causing that one. Sometimes I see bugs and I'm already aware of them. And I know loosely how to fix them and I just haven't done it yet. And sometimes I see bugs and it's like, I've not seen that, don't know what it is. This isn't Christmas music. This is Green Sleeves. Fine, whatever. Those are most of the actual bugs, and then we're going to go through the playtest reports and find out the more sort of subjective, qualitative stuff, which is perhaps a bit more interesting to talk about. Let's see what Paul Ward said. I'm going to jump straight to frustrating. The game is really punishing, whether by design or otherwise. For example, when trying to light a torch, the time I had to get the torch into the path of flames I just made was practically 0. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, we've got a thing about contextual pop-ups to let the player know they can eat things and stuff. Players don't know they can eat stuff for health. So just write down the problem rather than what to do about it, because that means that I can see that in a month's time and go understand the problem, and then I can come up with a solution that fits the state that the game is in at that point. Whereas if I write down, make a pop-up that does this, then that might not actually be the right solution. We've got some jumping bug reports. We've already kind of captured that, and that's coming up in the next couple of months. Okay, I think that's everything from Paul's playtest. It is like a Scrum to-do list, yeah. So the to-do list is just the to-do list, the kind of green light one here. This is the stuff that I'm actually deciding to do, right? Or the stuff that's coming up next. So the new pause menu is a priority for next, although that is starting life as a kind of set of sketches and wireframes, because we're trying to do some weird stuff. We're trying to work out how to make the surround of the game in a high res. So you'll notice a lot of the text in the game isn't pixel art anymore. So basically everything that's not in the game world we're going to do in HD. So all of the menus of the game, the plan is to make like one unified menu that has all the settings and stuff in we need, but also has like encyclopedia stuff about the enemies, the traps, the cooking recipes, all of the stuff that people have kind of struggled to comprehend up at this point or needed more information about will go on this kind of steampunk iPad type thing. But because we're trying to make this in Ultra HD, I wanted to make sure that if we need to put little pixel art pictures of the relics or the food items or whatever on this, it still made sense. So having it as like a held item with a digital screen sort of makes sense of that mix a little bit. So that's kind of like a big ongoing task, because I'm not going straight to engine for this. I'm trying to work out the kind of general style and design language of this game object. Because basically every menu is going to be in this thing. So it needs a bit of thought and planning. So that's kind of already on the to-do list at the moment. I'm kind of going in and out of that. And then let's see. Right, next playtest report up from Paul's first one. Yeah, I'll just say HK was it. So HK's favorite thing. I love how the game is balanced between my greed and scoring safely. I had an amazing run collecting a bunch of relics and golds. Had a choice to go back and cash it or risk it for the biscuit. I died soon after, and the death was frustrating and funny at the same time, as it was my greed that got me killed. Yeah, I do like that aspect of it. It's quite punishing, but I really like sort of when the game punishes you for your own decision to push it. It's just hard to know. Like, not all players are going to like that. I think the players who do like that, but it's also, it's making sure it feels that way a majority of the time when you die, you know? And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't want the kind of combat or the traps to be ultra punishing, because I want the deaths to feel like they were the mistake of a bad choice rather than just random bad stuff happening. Trying to catch a rope or chain during air jumping felt unreliable to pull off with the controller. Okay, so I'm going to put players don't know how to jump, climb onto a rope. And that was more than one person had that issue. I know that came up more than once. This is why I think this playtest has been really good. No, there won't be hardness settings, not on a small indie game like this that is designed to be hard. It doesn't make sense. That's the kind of game dev where you're copying AAA. I don't think a difficulty settings for this game would make any sense, because the things that different people find difficult are not going to be the same for everyone. You know, some people might find the monsters difficult. Some people might find the situational awareness of understanding traps and stuff. There is a difficulty setting. It's called upgrading how many heart containers you have before you upgrade anything else, you know? Yeah, but the thing about making an indie game is you're not making it for everyone. So the people that you know that only play a game on easy probably don't play Spelunky or Noita, and this is in that kind of market segment of like ultra hard, slightly thinky reaction platformers. And so I don't need to think about players that don't like this type of game because they're not going to buy it in the first place. So we don't have the choice of cancelling a door. That is a deliberate design choice. Because we don't want to create a situation where you go to one door, you don't like the options, you close the door, you go to another door. That's kind of breaks how a drafting game works. A drafting game needs to force you to push forward and draft stuff and make decisions. So one of the things we're looking at is not being able to cancel a door can feel punishing. And one of the proposed solutions to this is a re-roll or redraft mechanic. So I'll just put that there with a question mark. So the way this would work, I think, is when you open a door and there's those three options, there's like maybe like a little purple bar at the bottom that says redraw, and you have a resource and you start off with one of it and you can collect more, and you press that and you get three different things. That's kind of the thing that we're thinking about at this stage. I don't know what the resource is. Maybe it's ink, because drawing and the pun on drawing with ink, I don't know. Not sure there, but it's dice in blueprints, which is kind of where we're pinching a lot of these mechanics from. But I don't know if dice is the right thing to use here, because it's allowing a certain amount of cancels. It still doesn't push the player forward though, you know. I think reroll is good because it's like, no, you're opening this door, but you get an opportunity to like change the options. It's not an easy thing to accidentally do as well, because the open door button is not used for anything else. It's quite a deliberate controller layout for that. Okay, that's everything from HK Kim's feedback thing, really, that's something we need to action. Ah, here we go. So this one is written out, which is good because I can look through this and it's got no feedback. So this one was a known issue for me. I've had this happen. So we've got these jump through platforms that are branches from the trees, and sometimes they spawn here and you kind of get stuck and you can't walk out of them and you can't jump up. So I've already added a possible fix to the list, which is basically, in this situation we should destroy this block. You know, if a branch ever finds out it's got a solid block like this above it, it should just destroy that automatically, so we don't end up with this situation. Yeah, that's kind of, that one's a known issue. Those are the kinds of things that you can just, they're like, those little issues are like the kinds of things you can just stock up dozens of them and then sit there one day and just bash through loads of them really quickly, because you know how to fix it. You know what the issue is. You know how to fix it. It's very quick. There's a really good management parable, if you want to call it that, about, I don't know if you've ever heard of this. It's like trying to fill up a jar with rocks and sand. And like the idea is that you want poop to be the reroll mechanic. That's not super intuitive, but hey, maybe. There's this idea, it's a project management parable. You've got a big jar, right? And you've got a load of rocks and some pebbles and some sand. And if you just try and chuck it all in, it won't fit. But if you put the rocks in first and the pebbles around, then you can just sort of pour the sand in on top and it will fill out the gaps and it will all fit in. I don't know how physically true that is. It feels true, but this is kind of the way that you generally do project management and how you do like Agile Scrum, which is what we're doing with Trello really, is like you work out what's the big ticket thing we're working on now, what's the big high priority thing, and then because you've got this list of really, really small issues, when you've got nothing else to do and you're twiddling your thumbs, you can just pull like small things off that list of issues. And it's good to have a backlog that is a mix of small issues that you know the fix for and like a big focus, because then when you're working on the big focus and you need a break, you can just quickly go, oh, I've got these 5 small bugs to fix, I'll go over there and do that, and now I come back to that with fresh eyes, and you know, that's, I think, quite a sensible way of approaching that kind of thing. So thank you so much to who wrote this. This was Carnio. Thank you, Carnio, for writing a whole ass report. Atmosphere, like the characters, love the art and the music. Feels oddly relaxing to play until it suddenly isn't. Yeah, that's kind of what we were going for as well. Greatly enjoyed the mystery of figuring out what the hell the game is about. I can tell there are smaller secrets that... Yeah, okay. What the hell is the big spiky egg rock thing? I'm not even sure I know what that is. What else with the big mouth? Yeah, okay. Movement feels good, but I have some concerns. Yeah, we're going to rewrite the whole character controller. The character controller is a horrible Frankenstein's monster. I got a platformer template, did my best with it, handed it off to someone else to try and fix it for me. They did their best with it. I've hacked it a bunch since then. It's a horrible Frankenstein's monster. It's got no, like, there's no proper state machine for the player character and stuff like that. So we're going to just totally rewrite it at some point. Yeah, Coyote time is broken. We know that. Don't like how zoomed out the camera gets when the map gets bigger. So we're currently doing something where the first, I think it's the first 5 rooms you build, the camera goes out a little bit. And it's a really nice effect because it starts kind of cozy and tight, and then later it lets you see more of the level. But it does make it, it's making it harder for people to read. Yeah, so it becomes harder to see what the tiles are. So what's the problem? We described the problem. Players struggle with visibility / legibility as the camera zooms out further. And what's the fix for that? Well, it could be a bunch of things, but one of them will be, okay, we've got 5 steps of zoom. Let's just make the steps smaller, so it still zooms out gradually for the first 5 doors, but the total amount it zooms out is like 60% of what it was before. I think that's probably what we'll end up doing. One of the problems is I'm always playtesting on a massive screen, so I don't have a good sense of what this is going to look like on a Steam Deck or something. What I probably should do is playtest with it windowed in like a corner of the screen to test for this stuff. We want a better way to examine the map. I like how it zooms out when you pause, but the menu blocks it. I have a shit memory, so it'd be nice to be able to see what I've built where I can backtrack to more easily. Yeah, so we've got this kind of fake Metroidvania map that you can scroll around, but we've got all of our placeholder control screen and stuff all over it, which isn't great. I don't think this is the only person who said this. They wanted some sort of pop-up when they first get a relic. I don't like... It doesn't feel like I can do a lot with the momentum I generate in the tight spaces the level forces me in. Yeah, I kind of get what they're saying here, because... I mean, we already sort of responded to this once, because when I first started working on this game... A lot of the rooms in the game were, well, just much smaller. Let me just turn the Christmas Dungeon synth off for a moment. So if you look at the size of this starting room, the original tile sizes for the rooms in this were like 2 times the size of this. So they would be, you know, this horizontal or this vertical. And that was like for the first month or 6 weeks or something of working on this. And it quickly became really apparent that it was like a bad use of a platformer because it was just too tight. And what this player is saying is basically, you know, I guess some of these bigger rooms like this, you can do a bit more with the momentum, but you're just jumping across there and then you stop again because there's another door, right? So we've got a few rooms like this that use the platforming a bit better. But maybe generally it still feels a bit cramped to move around. And I think maybe the problem goes away a bit when you're trying to get back to the start of the level. Because once you've built the level and you're trying to get back to the beginning, which you have to do to sort of preserve everything you collected. Like if I get this carrot and I'm trying to take this carrot through the level, you suddenly get to do full momentum platforming. And you can like do a bit more of what you'd expect to be doing in a platformer because you can run through the level and you don't get stopped by having to open doors. But I do think maybe one of the things they're looking for is a few bigger rooms so that we're not always just building a room, jumping across it, stopping, jumping around, you know? So I think maybe some of these rooms could be even bigger, like even bigger than that. Because these gauntlet rooms were put in specifically to start addressing that problem of like, it doesn't feel like there's enough you can do with the platforming. Like that bit feels like a mini room in a Metroid or something, but it's still very, very tight compared to what people would expect from a platformer generally. So I'm not going to put a task down for that. I'll note it as an issue, but I think as we come to add more rooms, it will be something to consider. It's like, do we need things to be more spaced out in some way? There might be other ways of kind of addressing that are more interesting. It's kind of hard to say. The classic maneuver. Movement can still feel claustrophobic even with larger rooms. Do we need more large open rooms? And maybe it is just, you know, part of the rhythm of the game that you're doing very stop-start stuff at the beginning, and then when you jump back across the level, it becomes more smooth and fluid. But yeah, it's hard to tell. And I think as we get kind of a richer set of interactions between the rooms, what I want really is you get something from room A and you need to take it to room B, but you built room B over there and you're already like 5 rooms in. So to take the thing A over to room B, you have to now do the jump puzzle through the rooms that you put there, right? So I think some of the rooms that we've got currently are a bit placeholdery. They haven't really been thought through. It's just like, oh, this is here to put some stuff in that will kill you. This is here to put the chance of getting some fruit or whatever. One of the things we'll do in the next round is probably start to think about what the entire deck of rooms looks like. And I imagine it being like, we've got green rooms are basically nearly always positive. They don't have anything that hurts you in. And if you learn their rules, you can get more stuff out of them. Like there's certain things that happen if you build a certain green room later, or, you know, the shops appear in the green rooms every 2 rooms. So the 2nd and 4th and 6th green room will always have a shop of some sort in. The green rooms are just generally positive. They kind of build your economy up in the game. The red rooms always have monsters in, and the grey rooms have traps and treasure in. And then there are like relic builds you can get that make the red rooms really lucrative or upgrade the green rooms or whatever. And I think what I'm thinking is the starting deck will be an equal divide of those 3 things. So on most draws at the start of the game, you will have a chart. You will usually get one of each color. That will be like the standard distribution. But that also means if you choose the green room every time, you're removing the green rooms from the deck. And as you build the level, if you've got loads of keys and you're building the level for a long time and the level gets big, the amount of the deck which is red becomes bigger. So you end up sort of being forced to put the dangerous rooms in because the red and grey rooms become like inevitable. So I'm thinking it will be like a third of each colour. And then you've got gold rooms that you can only obtain during the run by picking up a map that don't change the distribution that much. And you've got blue rooms that you obtain from doing stuff in the metagame that I know only some people have seen so far. But even then, I think if you add all the blue rooms to the deck, that will become like 25% of the deck. So that's kind of like the general feeling around it. But I think when we sort of lock in how many cards there are or how many rooms there are of each type, it would be good to revisit this at the same time and to think about this problem, right? So if we've got this issue that it always kind of feels like you build a room, you run into the room, you immediately just go to the other door and press open the door and you open the next door, and you're never really getting into like fluid jumping around platformery type stuff, that can be something we consider as we move on to making the next set of rooms. But it's not necessarily like a problem that there's an easy fix to now. It's more a consideration with the next batch of content. The ghost, this is the issue where the ghost doesn't time out. So there are these little doors where you need to pick up a skull key and take it to the door. And when you open those, like a wraith comes and chases you. That just is broken sometimes and doesn't time out. Yeah, okay, this issue is that spikes don't get overwritten. Spikes don't get overwritten by new rooms. And that's a relatively easy thing to fix. So I'm going to put that straight into here as something I'm going to have on my to-do list. So I'm trying to set this up so in the next week or so, when I've got odd bits of time to work on it, I've got stuff in the backlog that I've already decided we're doing. A lot of this stuff on the temporary list, don't know what we'll do about it and when. I had no more doors after opening a kitchen sapling and an armory. I had keys remaining, couldn't reproduce this. So 2 of these rooms just don't have an exit door on. And I think one of the solutions here is to players don't notice when a room is a dead end. And I think one of the possible solutions here is when you get the preview of the rooms, the door icon should be more prominent, so you notice when a room doesn't have a door. Because some of the rooms are not supposed to have a door. They have like a really good thing, like the armory is 5 bombs. It's like a really useful room. It's a little tower with 5 bombs in, but it doesn't have a door on the other side. So you always build it as a dead end, and then you go and take the bomb somewhere else and do that. I was kind of thinking through the balancing of the game as I do it, and one of those is some rooms should be dead ends if they're quite helpful rooms to build. I don't know if that will stay, but I think if it does stay, it needs to be clearer that a room is a dead end so people get used to that concept. Yeah, UI in the castle, fine. I got stuck between tiles trying to punch a banana out of it. There's the branch. He's just hanging out. Lem's just hanging in there. Yeah, that's been pretty helpful. Thank you for that. Got a whole report. So Big Flat Cabbage. Thank you for your playtest as well. 12-year-old me would have played the poop out of this. That's a good start. Favorite thing, finding food to bring back to the wizard and the repeated element of surprise while exploring. Regularly had a reaction of what does that do? Oh, that's what that does. What? Frustrating. This only sometimes happened, but as I got more rooms, Lem started to move slower and slower. It didn't seem like an overall FPS drop. Yeah, so I think this report was before the last bunch of optimizations we did, because Cabbage was playing literally on the day of the build, and there's been fixes since then. I'm just gonna put the Lurid Orb album on in the background so we get our synth back. Sorry it's not Christmassy synth, but that was only 15 minutes long, that playlist. So I don't only listen to Dungeon Synth, but I do tend to, when I'm making a game, I pick the music for the game and then I listen to music that matches that music, because it helps to get me in the headspace of how I think that game works. Right, so yeah, sorry, let's get back to Cabbage's comments. So, frustrating slowdown bugs, basically. What did you want? My favourite thing is the interactions with different objects and the element of discovery and surprise, like leaving a flower next to a goat and the flower disappears and realising the goat ate the flower. I would love to see more of this. I think that's what's driving the sense of play for me the most. I wish it was slightly more forgiving if I misplace a room. What was I doing? Getting every treasure I could find because it was fun to hoard goodies and trying to find a food item. I tended not to think hard enough about room layouts and would sometimes lock myself if into losing a run. Yeah, I mean that's kind of part of the core design, really. Describe the game. Dungeon crawling roguelike platformer with lots of very thoughtful interactions between items in the environment with poop and raspberry noises. Okay. That's mostly complimentary. I just remembered I needed to write down something from the last one, which was... What was it? It's fallen out of my head. I just had it. Oh. Players want more information on a relic when they pick it up. Because at the moment you have to manually go and find the information about the relic. You had to... you have to like manually open the menu and read the stuff. Okay, playtest report 2 from... the most awaited sequel to the unannounced unofficial winner of Game Awards 2025 Best DirtWorld Playtest Report category. So I think this was a player that couldn't play the first time because everything was slowed down so much. Okay, so enjoyed experimenting with stuff. Cool. I mean, that's generally what we want the game to do. The fact that the world was alive even when I was not there amazed me. In one run, I decided to go as east as possible. Although I didn't reach anything interesting, which I think there might be something east or west. When I returned to the portal, in my way I witnessed so many things have changed. Walls destroyed, duplicated, or changed. Objects were aflame, goats producing milk, flowers were everywhere, and more. It was fascinating. So there's some interesting technical stuff here, which is that one of the things that Gleb did to optimize the game is cull objects that aren't on the screen. But there's like a safe area around the edge. So, you know, if you light a bomb and throw it off the screen, there's going to be a grace period where it's still lit and it still detonates as you expect. But if you go about half a screen away from the screen, things kind of stop simulating. But there are certain interactions where we still want them to happen over time. So, for example, the plants are just kind of... Might as well just show you this, but the plants in the game, the flowers even, They don't grow on a real timer. They grow based on how many rooms you've built. And I think that will become like a global tick for certain things. I don't know. Maybe it's just for naturey stuff. But if we build a green room, and you'll probably see... Do we have any... We don't have any shoots here. I don't think we grew any. Okay. We get these little green shoots, and they go through growth stages depending on how many rooms you've built. There's one. They're very hard to see when they're small, these guys. Now, every time I build a new room, there's a 1 in 3 chance that each of these will tick up to the next growth stage. And there's 3 growth stages, and then you find out what flower it is, right? And at the moment, the flowers all do the same thing. But eventually, you might have a situation where, like, a sunflower does a different thing from a poppy and so on. So this is kind of a reward for surviving longer and building more rooms. You get more flowers, and whatever you do with those, you can do more of it. But it also means when you come back through the level, you see that all of these flowers have grown, which is quite satisfying as well. But they've been culled when you're off the screen. So one of the things I had to do to get around that is they count what room they were built at, like what number of rooms had the player built when I existed. And then when they come back into existence, after you come back close to them, they have to make all of these rolls based on how long it's been. It's kind of a bit of a screwy concept, for me at least. I know it's probably like a really basic programming thing, but again, I'm not a programmer, so there's certain things like this that were... Like, the first time I have to go through that process of working out how to do that, I'm just like, oh, is this really how you have to do it? And it's like, well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, if you sell the gnome enough stuff, he gets out and starts stomping about. Yeah, we've got no pixel art fonts in the game anymore. We've got this kind of retro serif font, which the thing I'm going for with this is like retro tabletop role-playing game rule books, or the kind of little booklet that you'd get with an NES game. You know? Can you use the gnome in a recipe? The gnome is technically, when the gnome is dead, it's technically just a meat. So there is an object type called object meat, and any dead animal is just an object meat and can be used as such. And that means that yes, you can cook the... I don't like this steak image. I think I want it to look more like a big roast chicken leg type thing. But you totally can kill the gnome and cook him. And then you can feed him to your boss. And your boss thinks he's delicious. He's like, I love that gnome meat. Yeah. Deeply cursed interaction. So one of the things there was that I want to fix, it's on my own personal list, is when you cook something, I don't want it to be immediate. I want there to be a little bar, so you know something is happening, and also you have to wait. But at the moment, if there's a piece of meat, which includes like a dead monster or a dead gnome, and it's right next to fire, it just immediately turns into like a cooked meal. I want that to be a little bit more gradual. The hub was the most boring aspect of the game, yeah. Uh-huh. The hub is... the problem there, I'm just going to write the hub is boring. And I agree. The hub is boring. It's underdeveloped. So it's not boring without reason, but it is something we need to work on. When I portal to start a new run, my torch won't teleport with me. So can we bring stuff to the new run? This enables more strategic decision making where you end a somehow bad run prematurely and bring one important item back to the next run. I do like that idea. Because we already have the functionality to bring one item back to the castle from the run, but there's no way to bring an item from the castle to the next run. And I think what they're describing is both a logical extension of that mechanic that you would expect to happen as they are, and like say you can then create you can have a very valuable item that you deliberately bring back and then take through again. It does start to raise questions about, like, if you can do that, then why don't you keep your relics after each run? Or, you know, why does all your money go away? But, hey, it's a video game. Be able to save an item from the castle and take it into a run. I'm putting it in the backlog as something I'm going to do, or at least try to do, because I think that's the sort of thing that will just take 5 minutes. For the first time in the history of DirtWorld playtest reports, I want to allocate a point exclusively for a feature request, the ability to look down or up. This is already implemented in so many platformers. We already have it. You can look down and up. Maybe the delay is too long on looking down up. If you hold down, the character bends over and the screen moves down. If you hold up, the character looks up. Unless those features have been broken somehow. I'll do a quick test on it, but I'm pretty sure that's still in there. Yep. Oh. Yep. I'll look down. I think this is one of my favorite sprites of Lem. When he's looking down. Because it looks like he's like... It's kind of giving the impression that you've got like a Mario level where it's just totally one flat plane. And he's like looking over the blocks. I like it. It's cute. And yeah, you can look up and down. I don't know how to make sure that you can do that in the game itself, but it is already a thing. Maybe I was hallucinating, but I think I heard sort of a machine gun when... Yeah, okay, so we've got some audio re-triggering bugs. Weird bug with the food board. Food board is not part of the room, I think. That's why when you override a room, it won't go away and makes this weird image to the left. It's more visible. Yeah, okay. Food board doesn't delete when overwritten with a new room. That's kind of a bug, I guess. Yeah, this one we already noted down earlier. You can basically get 2 dialogue boxes over each other because the dialogue system is hacks all the way down. Red arrow and yellow box. If you stand in that pixel, the previous dialogue won't disappear. Yeah, it's the same problem. Yeah, this, in my mind, this whole interface is a little bit placeholder. It's just, you know, quickly throwing something in to give a vibe of something. What I will probably do is just extend this sprite, because I think these things are as big as they need to be, and the reason I've ended up putting the key and the heart up here is just because there's not enough space, and we really need like the cost on... Maybe the cost is on a little screen, and then this is like a big like game show type sign. Get one of these here type thing. Key floating in the wall. Stuff does get stuck in between rooms when you build rooms over rooms. Standing on air, yeah, you can occasionally... This is probably going to be, when we rewrite the character controller, some of this stuff will get fixed. But yeah, you can sort of clip if you do particular combinations of things. Yeah, I'm not gonna not give people a description of how the relics work. That's not gonna that's not gonna go down well. So basically, this description of a relic, you only get this after you've picked the relic up. You can't see it on the relics you've never gotten. One thing I will say is some of the relics have a secondary use that isn't in this description. So there are, I think out of all of these relics that we've already programmed, there are 3 relics at least that have an additional bonus use that it doesn't tell you about here. And I'm going to extend that further because I don't want to have a totally obscure, oblique system where the players don't get told anything about what a relic does. Because that's going to make life way too hard for people. But I do want there to be some secrets involved in relics. So I think having some... or having even more where it tells you it does one thing and that's the main thing it does, but there's also some second usage. So to give you an example, and you know, because there's only 65 people in this chat, so it doesn't matter if some of you know this. If you're holding either of the egg related relics and you sell an egg at market, it gets like a value bonus. So if you have the Tamagotchi or the egg timer, it makes eggs more valuable. Why? Because you're holding the special egg. Just enjoy the bonus and don't worry about it. Just the kind of things that people... You know, you get a certain amount of information in the game and then there's a bunch of secrets that will end up on a wiki someday. You know, that kind of thinking. Trying to make 2 tiers of information about the game, I guess, so that it's not... so that there's plenty of secrets to find, but there's still a base level of information that you get so that you're not completely lost. This is all layout stuff which we don't need to worry about because this is going to get completely trashed. So I appreciate this level of in-depth feedback, but this is a placeholder interface anyway, so let's leave that for now. Thank you so much for taking the time to write that. That was great. Let's see who's up next. So Turt said, what was I doing? So just to give you a bit of a sense of how fast forward works, I said I wouldn't explain it, but it's kind of important here because most of the people that did the playtesting are answering these questions. So what was your favorite thing? What was the most frustrating thing? What did you wish you could do but you couldn't? What do you wish was different if you could change the game? And then describe what you were doing in the game and how... What were you doing in the game and how would you describe the game to a stranger? So Turt said, favorite thing, exploring the different rooms and their secrets, building a path to reach treasures on floors above and below. Yeah, and you kind of see there are various rooms in the game where you can't get to all of the room when you initially build it. So you then have to build another room to get round to the top or the bottom of that room. That's like a very deliberate use of the room drafting and the platforming together. Most frustrating, falling into a space that can't jump out of and needing to forfeit. Yeah, okay, that's on the cards to fix already. Wanted to do but couldn't. So far, cooking a meal with 2 ingredients in the kitchen pot. I've tried a couple of ingredients like carrots and a steak but haven't figured the mechanic out yet. To be honest, I haven't needed to because I found lots of good unique food to deliver to the wizard, such as in the golden room. So I think I'll explore that mechanic the more I play, which is fine. So yeah, we're already looking at maybe having some way that you can view recipes. And I think the Vampire Survivors way of doing this is going to be right for this game. Where you've got like... I want to see the example where it's not filled out yet. But you basically have this big list that's like x plus y equals z. And at the start, you can see the two things you're supposed to mix together, but you can't see what it turns into. I think I want us to have that kind of system. So you have a little bit of guidance, but it's sort of open to surprise you. Wanted to do but couldn't. More options to spend crystals on. Yeah, we'll that will be something we'll develop as we go on that side of the economy. Wanted to do but couldn't. Manually zoom in and out. This was someone playing on the Steam Deck. The screen is small, and sometimes as the game zooms out, I feel like I'm squinting to see things, so I want to zoom in. So this is... We've kind of already got this... Players struggle with visibility as the camera zooms out further, and that's going to be worse with smaller devices as well. What was I doing in the game? Initially exploring quite cautiously, choosing a lot of green rooms, enjoying seeing all the new layouts. And that's nice to hear, because... part of the point of this design and the deck composition is you can just deliberately build grey and green rooms if you want to have a run with no monsters, and that's kind of part of the way the game is built. As I played more runs, I felt comfortable being a lot more adventurous because the penalty for death is low. This is a very good thing in my opinion. Usually I use most of my keys, get 3 or 4 relics, which sometimes have an impact on my run, but often don't. This doesn't feel bad or anything, just an observation. A couple of 100 gold coins and then find a new food item to feed the wizard, meaning I should take it and leave. So Turt's experience is very close to what I imagined an early game player to be, in terms of what they're managing to achieve after they've learnt the core mechanics. How would you describe the game to a stranger? It's a comfy platformer where you draft rooms to find treasure, and you can build around your existing rooms to create pathways to items that are too high to reach, or replace a room which might explode the walls and let you access an item buried underground. Okay, and when we've got some like technical feedback about the Steam Deck, which we weren't really looking to support yet, but it's kind of nice that we've kind of got people looking at it, especially seeing as it raises the issues about visibility more than the actual technical specifications of the device. Like, what happens when you make this game really small? Because the issues that someone has with visibility on a Steam Deck will be the same issues that someone with like visual impairment has on a larger screen. So that's worth thinking about, I think. Yeah, there's no new stuff there that we really need to make note of, but there's some helpful things in there. And I think one of the things that someone came back to us on the Discord, I don't know if it's someone who is here now, but I think it was Corp. So Corp said, the destruction of bombs is too massive and hard to control, often obliterating opportunity instead of enhancing. I kind of agree with this. So in the game currently, all of the different explosives we've got the bombs you can carry and light. We've got the TNT blocks in the environment. And we've got the myconids, this little guy. When these blow up, they cause an explosion. All of those explosions are bespoke to those objects, and they don't really have anything to do with each other. So one of the things I'm intending to do is to create a generic explosion object, or a small explosion and a big explosion. So we have like a consistent, this is what a big explosion is and this is what a small explosion is. And then that can just be spawned by lots of different things, because I haven't done that yet. And I think that is one of the things I'll consider, because the bombs do have quite a big hit range with their explosion at the moment. And it's difficult to tune because we don't have a universal explosion. If I change the bombs, it doesn't do anything to the TNT. So what I'm going to do is make the bombs and TNT both produce the same explosion object, make the myconid produce a small explosion object, and then just have those two universal things that are used everywhere and have like their own particle effects and stuff attached. So that bit of feedback is already noted. But one of the things, the reason I'm jumping from Turt's feedback to Corpse is that Corpse said that it didn't like that some of the relics felt like they didn't do anything. And I'm just contrasting that to Turt's playtest, where they said that it sort of didn't feel bad that some of the relics didn't have an impact. And I think that's something worth thinking about, because if they all do something good, then there's not really any choice about whether to pick them up. Whereas if they have like varying degrees of usefulness, and you start to learn what they do and what they don't do, you can like look at the map and go, oh, that's really important, I need to go over there and get that. Or you can delay picking them up. So for example, the doublet, what's it called? The coin doubler relic, this doublet, this doubles how many coins you've got when you pick it up. So that's one where once you know the mechanic, you can like deliberately leave it on the floor until the end of your run. So instead of picking up when you've got 300 coins, you're picking up when you've got 2,000 coins or something. But you're gradually making that harder to do because the level's going to get bigger and you're going to be further away from it. That kind of thing. So I'm quite happy with the relics having a wide range of usefulness, and some of them having like only being useful in very specific situations, because that means that you can have like a very big you then as a player have to learn to judge the value of the different relics, which is kind of how relics work in something like Slay the Spire. Some of the relics in Slay the Spire are absolute garbage and not that useful. Like, oh, you'll draw a card every 30 times you do this or whatever, and then I don't even realize it's happened because it's got an annoying little ticker in the corner. I think that varied value is what makes that system work. I think if you try and make everything too universally useful, then it doesn't work so much. So there's definitely a few relics that we've got here that I might take out, but I won't necessarily take them out because they're not powerful enough. I'll just take them out because they're not interesting. It's probably the more important thing. Okay, one playtest report here. Sounds feel repetitive. There already is random pitch. This is kind of not playtesting feedback at this point. I want to know about the gameplay. I can always kind of add more sound effects and stuff, but that's late game polish type stuff. I think this is quite valid. Eating fruits shows 2 or 3 hearts while only heals 1. Showing the exact amount restored, I think, is better. Yeah, okay, so I think the way I would describe that would be hearts particles for healing are confusing / misleading, right? That's the particulars. Particles, that's the issue there. That's quite an easy fix, so I'm gonna move that straight over onto my backlog, because that's one I can just do very, very quickly at some point. Very, very easy. Small fix. Falling damage is weird. The game calculates seconds tiles the player is falling. If it's more than a number and less than another number, they take 1 damage. If it's more than the second number, they will die. I think that's the formula. This makes a scenario where falling from a balloon makes you die mid-air, like falling into the void. My opinion, make the fall damage scale with how many tiles the player has fallen, not only 1 or die. I'm not sure about that. I'm going to just put a task here that is like review fall damage, because we're probably going to be rebuilding the character controller. We're probably going to be rebuilding the damage model. Maybe this makes sense, but I kind of really like the idea of there's just a sort of fuzzy area where if you fall 2/3 of a screen, you're just always going to die. I'm not sure I want to have a situation where if you've leveled up your health loads, you can just fall really, really far and be okay. So maybe it's a case of like, we do what this player wants, but it's kind of on a curve, you know? So the amount, how would I describe it? The gap between each heart's worth of damage shrinks. So like, you know, this Like, this far is... You fall this far on the screen, that's 1 heart of damage. You fall this far, that's 2 hearts. You fall this far, that's 3. You fall this far, it's 4. So it kind of... It's like on a curve and it shrinks. I think something like that would be closer to what I want and making it feel better for this player. Because there's basically a chance to lose a range of different amounts of health instead of just all or one, which is kind of the problem they're raising. I don't want to make it so that, you know, you fall this far and you lose 1 health, and then if you've got loads of hearts, you can fall 5 times this and still have a heart left because you've got 6 hearts and you felt like... So that's kind of my thinking there. I'm not sure how I would implement that at this stage, but that's kind of my thoughts about that. I don't want to get it to a point where you can just like fall so far. You can level up your health so much that falling just isn't meaningful anymore, because it's the only really instantly fatal thing in the game at the moment, and everything else is about taking chip damage from being, usually from being silly and not avoiding things very well. Yeah, logarithmic full damage scaling is what we're talking about. Yeah, I don't want it to be a combat-heavy game. I want the damage... Again, if you've played Spelunky, you will have sort of felt this. Like, a game like Spelunky is very much more of a game about being careful and, like, situational awareness. Rogue Legacy is a little bit like that as well. There's a little bit more combat finesse in Rogue Legacy, but there's still fundamentally games about situational awareness and being careful. There will gradually be more traps and monsters in this game. We'll have more ways to damage the player. But it's taken a long time to get it to the point where the game feel of things like punching a character or taking damage from a character feels good enough to really feel like we can lean into that quite a lot. Some questions about rooms. Do we have a deck? How many rooms are there? Are they random each run? Yeah, we'll put room information in the new menu when we build that fancy schmancy. When we build the fancy schmancy iPad thing. So this will have a room information thing, and that will give you like a sense of what's in your deck currently, and maybe it will have a list of the stuff you don't have yet with question mark, question mark, question mark, so you have a sense of the full scope of the game, but not the specifics of it. I think that might be a good idea. Moon rocks fall whenever they appear on my screen. I'm not sure what that means. Holding space jumps you exactly 5 tiles, but tapping space jumps you less than 1 tile. Yes, probably. Again, we're going to revisit this later on. That's already on the cards. People are doing like really good deep dive QA stuff on some of this, but it's kind of things we know about and are going to deal with already. Because of coins stacking on top of each other, we sometimes can't see exactly how many coins we collected. I think adding a floating text wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe. I mean, blue circle Y27 exactly. This is the answer to the question that you asked further up. So when you asked, do we have a deck? That's what this is. This is how many you've built of each color, and this is how many how many rooms are left in the deck. So how many rooms are left in the deck? How many rooms have you built? So this isn't very clear, and it wasn't really... It's kind of more debug than anything. But I think making this whole area of the game look a bit more like a deck of cards is going to help to explain what is going on in the interaction between this and like when you build rooms and stuff up here. Because at the moment, when you open a door and you get the choice of what to build next, there is a sort of sense of it being some sort of deck builder thing. You know, pick one of these 3 things. But there's no sense of how this is linked to that. This is really just debug and you've got to work it out, you know? Yeah, this is placeholder, so I'm not looking at menu feedback. With lighting off, fungi tiles are invisible. That's strange. I don't know how to... I'm going to just put turning lighting off hides some tiles. Again, lighting is on our list to sort of look at in general. 2 similar rooms with similar layouts. This way it's just a choice from 2 options. Yeah, that's because your deck has 2 kitchens in it. That's just a deck of cards thing. That won't always be the case. I put 2 kitchens in this build to make sure that people had more access to kitchens. That's not necessarily how it's always going to work. I think maybe there might be 2 rooms that have a cauldron in, but they're not both called the kitchen, so we don't have this problem. Let's just have a look at the deck composition, actually. I had to go in here earlier. So this is the deck data. So currently we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 unique red rooms. 1 of them is double up, so we start with 7 red rooms in the deck. Green rooms, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Chasm is currently not used. Grey rooms, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's very weighted towards grey rooms. So I think in the final game, we'll probably go for like 8 or 10 of each of these colour. And then the issue that they're seeing of like, oh, there's 2 kitchens. It's kind of like, yeah, because there's literally 2 kitchens. That's not an issue. That's me attempting to be generous by making sure you have access to a mechanic. But when it's seen this way and you don't understand that it's a deck of things, it appears to be a bug. So I think the best way to approach that is to say we're not going to have any duplicates. And if we want there to be 2 cauldrons accessible, we'll make like 2 different rooms that both have a cauldron in. And maybe one of them is the grey kitchen and one of them is a green room that's like the campsite or something like that, you know? The kitchen and the campsite are the 2 cooking rooms. Two similar rooms with... Yeah, okay. Blue rectangles. With the new plug, there is a state in which you're almost completely invulnerable to all damage. Bombs still hurt you. I'm jumping... Yeah, so I think this was basically where the... Sometimes invulnerability can... Sometimes invulnerability does not decay. I think that's the issue. We've had a few people report that sort of thing. And it's just a bug. Yeah, okay. So this is a lot of kind of QA type playtesting, which it's helpful. I sort of appreciate that someone's done it, but it's not what we need at this stage of playtesting. We need to know what's fun, what's not fun, what do you want more of, what do you want less of, rather than small details of like this thing in this menu is in the wrong place or whatever. The stuff, the most helpful information is like what's your favorite thing, what's the most frustrating thing, and any kind of indication we get that people don't understand a mechanic. That's helpful. Like the one that we just went through about why are there 2 kitchens? It's like, well, okay, something is... When you combine that information with the fact that they didn't understand that there is a deck, that points towards like a set of things we can work on improving. That's all of the playtesting feedback in terms of what was written out so far. Thanks to whoever just joined the Discord for the playtesting as well. It's someone who I am a mutual member of the Range Touch Discord with, so hello. Yeah, that's kind of so that's where we ended up with. This is all of this list here is stuff that we've insights we've harvested from tonight's feedback. So I'm just going to see if all of these actually... If all of these fit into the categories we've got. So... going to make a minor tag for things that maybe don't matter quite so much. That mint green. Dungeon Wraith doesn't time out. That is a bug. That's making the game too hard. Bombs don't light from pink torches. That is a bug. Double room preview is a bug. And that is one I think I've already worked out the fix for, so I'll put that in the backlog to do next time I sit down with the project. Loud random noises is a bug. I guess it's cosmetics and twigs and polish as well. I don't know. Cauldron disappearing is a bug. I don't know what's causing that, so I'm not even going to think about it at this stage. Players don't know they can eat stuff. Players don't know how to jump or climb on a rope. I'm not sure what I'd put that under. Not being able to cancel the door feels punishing. Okay, so... right, what I'm going to do with this one now is I'm going to move this over to ideas and I'm going to rename it to prototype / ideate mechanic for reroll, redraw, and rooms. And I will... maybe we need a new features label. So I'm thinking we'll use purple as the theme color for that because we haven't used purple anywhere else in the interface. It will be called reroll or redraw, and it'll either be dice as the imagery or maybe ink. And you always start off with one, and then there are things you can do to get more than one or whatever. The zoom thing... I think that's something I can tweak quite easily. Players don't notice when a room is a dead end. Make doors clearer in previews, maybe? I think I can fix that very quick as well. It basically give them a different sprite when they're initially made and then immediately change it when the room is built. So the versions that you see in the previews before you build the rooms have like a really bright orange door on. So a lot of this... I'll call this issue list actually. Or feedback. So maybe the way that we manage this is the list of problems and this should be like improvements. So room build numbers get balked should be over here. Yeah. Delay is too long. I'm looking up and down. We need a balancing one of these, don't we? Dark blue for balancing. Oh, hang on, I've just gone over tooling, yeah. Nope. Oh yeah, it's still there. Okay. Just hadn't hit the point where we needed to have that many labels, so I was wondering where it had gone. Okay, I think that's everything I need to do for tonight, right? The whole purpose of this exercise was to take all of the feedback and work out which of it is sort of quick things that are actionable now. Right, so some of these things, like this one, you know, make the doors clearer in preview so that when players are building dead ends, they're more aware of it. Make the camera not zoom out so far. That's something I can tweak now, right? I'm not going to do it in this session. I'm going to do it next time I sit down at the computer. I've got 5 minutes, you know, in between doing family stuff. Some of the things we found have already gone straight on the backlog as tasks that I can do at some point in the next week, and some of the issues list is just stuff to come back to later. And there's lots of things on this list that are things that we are already doing stuff to address, or already planning to do stuff to address, like rebuilding the menus, rebuilding the character controller, all of that kind of stuff. But that will be things that happen, you know, it could happen in January, it could be happening in 2 or 3 months' time. It's just a matter of like, what order do we do the things in? What's the kind of priority order of this stuff? Thank you all for joining in today. I don't know if I put the Discord link for DirtWorld on the stream description, but the DirtWorld server is totally separate from the Indie Game Clinic server. And Cool Breeze, as for your question, should you have camera setting options to zoom in and out? Maybe. I do really like the fact that we start zoomed in and we gradually zoom out. I think it's best to always have a main experience in mind before you start giving optionality. You know, when I do my design reviews, which is the main thing that this channel is usually about, one of the things that is so annoying is you open up a game and it has loads of modes and loads of different optionality, and it doesn't need it yet, and it's almost like the developer hasn't really decided what the core experience of the game is, and they're just throwing things in almost like a build your own flat pack furniture, but you're letting the player, leaving design decisions up to the player of like what the game is and like what the core experience should be. And it's good to give that choice and that optionality later on when it feels like you really need it. But I think earlier on you need to just be working out like one vision and one idea of the game. And then if you need those options, add them in later on. But we're not really at a stage with this where we've worked out what the ideal thing is yet. So it's better to still work towards the ideal before you start putting options in as a cop-out. Because something like how far should the camera be zoomed in or out yeah, it might feel like you're being nice to people to give the option to do that. But you might also be like robbing them of playing the game properly if there is a better place for the camera to be. You know, if it's fundamentally better for the camera to be more zoomed out in the game so the player can see more of the level, then it should be more zoomed out. If you give them the option to zoom in, they're going to make the game more difficult for themselves by deliberately zooming the camera in because they like how it looks, and now they don't have as much information about how to play the game. So I do think it is important to do things for a reason and lock in a specific experience that you're going for, and only add the optionality where it really helps, rather than just because you don't want to make a choice about that thing, you know? Yeah, Night Law. I remember Night Law. Yeah, it's not... wouldn't work for that because Night Law was isometric, but yeah, what a cool looking game. Thank you all for joining today, folks. And good luck with whatever you're doing over the holiday period, whether you're making a game or just eating lots of food, or whatever you're doing. I hope you've got some time off of work and that you're using it to recover from whatever you have to do for a living. And I will probably be back in the week between Christmas and New Year's, although I haven't scheduled anything yet because moving house and everything is still chaos. So thank you for joining, and I'll see you all soon. We'll see